Hello, boys. This is Dr. Infinity, and welcome to the Trough.
While you're there, I can hear you breathing. Don't you listen to these nitwits, you hear me? This place ain't so bad.
I want to go home. I want my mother. I ain't supposed to be here. Not me.
This week, got 3 books for you. We have the Chronicles of Heraldria, Sacred Times Part 1. This is a high fantasy book. This is a recommendation. The author is M.S. Jones. I've seen some of his stuff in the Bazaar Archives and like Toadstool. It's good. A recommendation, we'll get into that. We have the Cowboy Church by J.L. Mackie. This is a short little novella, kind of like country, southern thing. I'll cover in a little bit. This is a recommendation. And last, we have the Islamagood Bazaar and Other Trinkets. This is an anthology. It's kind of about the Middle East. It's kind of just about traveling and sort of stories focused on that. This is from the Unreal Press guys who are like 4chan people. And this is not really a recommendation for me, but I'm still going to talk about it because I bought it, I read it, we'll talk about it. I'll have links below for you to purchase the books if you want them. I'm also going to have timestamps below if you just want to skip ahead for me to talk about certain books and you're not really interested in the other two or whatever, your choice. Anyways, we're just going to hop in and I'm going to start with Sacred Times. So, M.S. Jones, as I said before, I had seen some of this stuff in Toadstool and Bazaar Archives. I like them. You know, check out Toadstool and Bazaar Archives if you haven't seen it. Those are anthologies. Toadstool is just like really kind of wholesome stuff. And Bazaar Archives is kind of like pulpy, can kind of be a bit grimy. I like them. Our kind of overview before I get into spoilers is a world where we have this city guardsman, Marius. And there's this parade going on with their incumbent, who is the manifestation of their god, the first imperator, right? And then out of heaven, you literally have a warrior ride down from heaven and kill their incumbent in front of all of their people. And all of their people take this as a sign that this is the beginning of the end times and that there's going to be a terrible battle where their God comes back. Everyone's like, we have to go on crusade and go to the Holy Lands to prepare for the final battle. And it's like, holy shit. So that's a little overview. If that's interesting to you, I would say check it out before going further. Chronicles of Heraldria. So now I'm going to get into spoilers and everything. We have Marius. He's a city guardsman in the city of Miramar. This sort of felt like the Roman Empire in a way, but I guess technologically we're at a period where they have kind of crude muskets and cannons, and they're a part of the Karen Empire, and they've kind of like conquered everything at this point, right? But what's going on now is that their leader, the incumbent, is having this parade, right? He's having this parade, and then something that's a Justicari, there's like 4 of them, and they're kind of, I don't know if I would say like apostles or angels, they're kind of angels. But one of them comes down, and he kills their incumbent. It's like, holy shit. And Marius is kind of our standard, strong, silent type. I'll get into that a little bit, where I think he's a little too silent. But he was a part of the 11th Legion. He did a lot of campaigning, but now he's back in the city. Once the incumbent's dead, everyone's flipping out, and like some people are really, really excited because, you know, it's like, wow, this is a sign. We have to go to Holy Lands now. You know, this is going to be it. Our God's calling us to do this. He joins a priest named Livrin who can do some magic, and while Marius is kind of questioning everything going on around him, because it's like, are our gods good? Are the Justicari, are they good? Livrin is very devoted to the religion and their beliefs. And they also have Lord Forian, who he has a title, right? He's nobility, but he has very little money. He's just kind of a pompous ass, and someone had paid him to attack Marius before they set out on their journey. We don't find out who in this book, probably in the next book. That's our little posse, and they're sent out to collect the sword and shield of the first imperator. And we get some characterization with Marius, but he talks about mentions being in the 11th Legion, I think for 10 years or so. He talks about on page 86, worried that he's going to be so emotionless for the rest of his life. He talks about the Outremer Wars and just being kind of numb, right? And he doesn't really talk about or get into any of his friends or maybe comrades he would have made while on campaign, which I can understand, right? That he's not willing to pry into that or talk about that if it went bad. But he also doesn't really mention having any lovers or girlfriends or anything, so he's somewhat sexless in a way. He's just very linearly focused. He's focused on one thing, and that's just kind of protecting the city. That was something I had a little problem with, or I guess some questions where it's just, I don't know. I guess he is the strong silent type, but I could use him opening up a little more. And that's probably going to happen in later books, right? So there's that. But they run into some problems when they go to find the sword and shield. The sword has already been taken, and it was another Justicari, and he just butchered everyone that was around there, So now it's are the Justicari good? Is our God good? But while the sword is gone, they can still go and get the shield. So they're pushing on to go get the shield. They picked up a kind of barbarian mage named Lorne, and they find some more weird stuff going on, dark rituals that are happening, and there might be some humans that are assisting the Justicari, and we don't really know what's going on. They end up getting captured by some mercenaries that work for the Empire, but they think that they're the enemy. And on page 144, this is something I had a little bit of a problem with. So while Lorne can do magic, he has blood magic or something. Livrin, he can also do some magic, but he can't do what Lorne does. But on page 144, the iron manacles may have blocked Livrin's virtue. That's their power and faith that's associated with their god. But the young priest had found a new source of power by studying Lorne's blood magic. This happens very, very fast. This is really quick. Where I think Lorne has used this magic once or twice, and they haven't been together for really long at all. So I found that's a little convenient for Livrin to be able to use magic that he's seen once or twice. And I don't think Lorne had. It's been since I've read 3 books, I haven't read them all within a few days of each other. It's been a little spaced out, right? So I might be a little mistaken here, but I don't think they were together for a super long time. I think it was just a day or 2 or maybe 3 or 4, but I don't need. Lorne didn't hey, here's how to do this, right? He just saw him do it. Something I had a little bit of a problem with. We're going on. We get through the mercenary camp. Lord Forian, he decides to stay with the mercenaries so he can keep his sword. We'll probably see him again, but if not, it's just, I don't know. There's stuff going on with him. We'll see him again. And at the very end, we make it to where the shield is, and we have an interesting little kind of ceremony thing that Marius and the other soldiers there do. They do this performance ceremony, which is them kind of reenacting their mythological cycle, because it's their only way to keep in touch with their faith when they were out on campaign, because priests wouldn't go out on campaign with them. So it's something that they would do to preserve their faith. And that was interesting. I think it's a way of giving us a lot of interesting, good information that we want to know about the world. And it was really interesting without just sitting down and just, hey, here's this, right? And at the end, we have Leton Ra. He arrives, and he's one of the Justicari. I thought he was a literal bird man, because all the 4 Justicari seemed animalistic, but it just seems like he's a human with a winged helmet. And Marius is able to fight him off with the shield, and it looks like Ra is not as powerful as he appeared, and that's kind of more interesting questions are being raised. I like this quite a bit. I had, little problems with Marius. I guess I wanted a little more getting into his head. I understand why he's numb, though, so he's not just dropping to his knees and just talking about all of his feelings constantly. But I could have used a little more. There's no like extra space in between time jumps for paragraphs, right? Like I'd like it to be there to help break up the pages, and just, yeah, I think it's pretty common where it's like we're in a chapter and then a character's like going to sleep or whatever, and then the next paragraph is like several hours have passed, right? But there's no extra space there, and that's just something that was consistent throughout the book. I'd like the extra space. Yeah, I like it. I will definitely read the next book. It's just, yeah, it's cool. They got the magic shield, you know, it's like their entire race is going on a crusade to the Holy Lands to like do the final battle with their god, you know, to like fight their version of the devil. It's like, that sounds awesome. That sounds really, really cool. And now this is Small Scraps. Small Scraps is like just little like kind of grammar or spelling things that I saw. Page 108, quote, "Then they chanted, arms raised to the sky, to the stars, to something awful up there." There's no end quote pairing there. And then right below that, it's, quote, "A living storm formed above us." Whenever that ends, there's not an end quote there either. And then page 109, we have Marius did not reorganize the language, should just be recognized. And then page 161, the neither 13th or 10 Legio had ever been reformed. Just neither, I guess. Overall, spelling and grammar was very good, I thought. This book definitely kept me interested. And yeah, looking forward to the next one. Oh, and I also felt like the price was good for it. I think it's just $10. I looked at the Bazaar Archives, and I'd recommend going there to get books, but from what I'm seeing right now on August 19th, there's one in stock on the Bazaar Archives. So I would say probably go to Amazon. It's probably going to be out of stock. It's just $10, and I think that's definitely worth it. The book's like 200 pages. Next, we have The Cowboy Church by J.L. Mackie. This is $4. It's a 74-page novella. So a quick overview for The Cowboy Church would be our main character is Ezra. He's an addict and a cripple. He owns this bar called The Cowboy Church, and he is estranged from his family. However, he can't help himself that when his family's in trouble, he has to go in and try to do the right thing. That's about as like bare as an overview I can do because it's only like 74 pages. Yeah, I like the prose for this. I think there's some nice phrases here and there throughout the book. We have Miranda, who works at the Cowboy Church, and she also like lives with Ezra, but they're not like having sex, it doesn't seem like, but like Miranda's in love with him, right? And Ezra is estranged from his father and sister Maggie. He gets a very cold reception when he goes out there to speak to them on the ranch. He's no longer a part of the family ranch. We don't know exactly how Ezra was crippled. I think it was probably something with a horse, maybe, I'll assume. But we don't know exactly what's wrong. He hears about his father and sister being in the hospital. You know, he still goes out there, and it turns out there's poison in the water. Something's going wrong, and he and Miranda, they do a little investigating and find out that this new kind of factory owner is trying to force them off the land. And this guy's name is Edward. He's just kind of a, standard, like, industrialist villain. I guess I would say he's fine. He's fine for what he is. Edward's trying to force them off the land, and he even burns down the Cowboy Church. Ezra has options, but he really doesn't. Like, leaving isn't something he can just do. He can't leave his family, even though his family really doesn't want anything to do with him. And he certainly can't take the money from Edward, right? Even though the land is probably going to, be very expensive to fix, considering, like, all their animals get killed from drinking the water. He's made his choice, and he ends up going back to his family home. There's a lot of photos of his sister Maggie. There's one photo of Ezra there. And he goes out and he sees like these old ruins that he used to play in when he was a kid. And he's watching the sick calf. Let me read that section. So there aren't really page numbers in here, but this is at like 2 pages from chapter 13. The calf collapsed in front of it, its neck weak and head drooping, its breathing weak and rapid. Ezra sat on a felled tree and watched it. He thought about ending the calf's misery, but figured it was too late to make a difference. Mortem was already in its bones and on its breath. and Ezra might need the bullet. The calf is Ezra, right? He is the calf. But like throughout the story, he's just kind of hobbling along with this cane. He's very physically incapacitated throughout the story. And it's just like he could go on, right? He could technically, like, he could make it so that he makes it at the end. But what's he sticking around for? I'll touch on that in a minute. So we had one friend, Jacob, who has a sniper rifle. And he has Jacob take out Edward's henchman, but not Edward himself. So Edward and Ezra, they end up shooting and killing each other at the confrontation, which happens at the burned out building of the Cowboy Church, right? I don't know if I agree. Like, I don't know if I agree with Ezra's choice that he doesn't like really see a way out, because he still has Miranda there. Miranda's still in love with them, but I don't know. It's kind of up in the air, right? Where it's like Miranda could have a decent life with someone else. And can he really give her a decent life? Can he be a decent man for her? Probably not, Probably not. It's probably too late. Maybe a few years ago, something. I thought that was interesting. I would definitely read more from this author. I think he has another one called The Fall, which is another little novella. I'll probably check that out at some point because, yeah, I don't think that's too long. And yeah, I thought this was nice. And small scraps for Cowboy Church. I only found one thing, and since there aren't page numbers, this is 2 pages before chapter 6. This was Bodyguard Nodded. It just needed a space. That was it. Editing seemed on point. No other problems I saw. So, Islamagood Bazaar and Other Trinkets. This is from the Unreal guys, and it's just an anthology about like the Middle East and kind of traveling stories. I've checked out some of their stuff before. It's Spare Change and Other Stories and Tales of the Unreal, and I'm kind of mixed on those as well, right? Those are kind of like softer recommendations, if they are recommendations. But with Islamagood, I can say that this is not a recommendation from me. I didn't really enjoy it overall. And like for anthologies, I need like at least a few like kind of wow me stories. Like I need a few stories that wow me, and then it kind of lifts up the rest of the stories, which maybe are a bit weaker, right? That's what I need, and I didn't really get that here. We have Oasis. This was fine, not bad. The Islamagood Bazaar, this little short story, it's kind of written like a play, and it's the namesake for the anthology, and it's like, if you want a kind of like 4chan green text that's stretched out, it's funny. It's pretty funny, and it's pretty, it's amusing. It's just kind of like really out there. I would say that's kind of like the highlight of it. And this anthology is a little bit more on the pricier side at, I think it's like $23. So I really can't justify that price with how much I enjoyed from it. But anyways, keep going on. We have Encryption, Exfiltration. This is fine. This is Japanese, and it's a little weird. I think there's a little too much story building in a short story, if that makes sense. Like there's too much. Yeah, it's just a little too much going on, I would say. We have Anglophile. Didn't really like this one. This is about just kind of like a con artist guy who just sleeps around. We have 1674. Sometime after quitting the Eastern Gate of Samarkand, or the Jade Mask. Didn't like this one. I just didn't really like how it was written. We have Seek, 1996. This one, what was that one? This is just kind of a weird one about like a Japanese prostitute. And I don't know. Didn't really like it. Intermission was okay. But then we have Intermissionary, which is sort of in the style of the Islamagood Bazaar, where it's just very kind of crazy and out there in 4chan. And it's all right. We have Treasure Hunter, which is a guy that like collects beautiful exotic women for like expats, right? But he kind of runs into some trouble with this one, and it was fine. Then Pilgrimage of 1876. Didn't really like it. There were a few where it's just like not really my thing. Last Leon, this is something that's like somewhat historical. This is like, I think it's Iracha, and I think like there was a King Ferdinand in Spain. I barely looked it up, but like he had like 5 kids. Then one of his kids, I think is Sancho, was just a piece of shit and like tried to take power from his siblings. And that was fine. Then Tale of the Prince, did not really like this one, or just kind of like the style that it's written in. To build the tool to run in the well, this one was all right, but it was just like, here's some oil workers in like Africa, and I think it's written well, but the ending, I'm not really sure like what the message is or anything. But it's just like kind of some, yeah, I thought it was well written. Heliophiles is like there's some manga artists in Japan, but again, it's just sort of like a weaker ending. It doesn't really do much for me. Final Stroke, it's just about this artist creating some stuff, and fine. The Hound God Scion, not really my thing. I don't really like it. And then Concordia Discourse. This one was, yeah, I'm gonna have an image for it, but just to give you a taste of it, where it's just like, yeah, this is kind of like the other one I pointed out, and don't really love it. That's just how I would describe the anthology. Didn't really love it. I didn't really have a, wow, at least like this one story was like great, because it's like, while I liked Islamagood Bazaar, it's definitely not strong enough to carry the rest of them, because the rest of them range from like, okay, to not very good. That's just my take. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend Downfall, free on YouTube. You know, watch that before watching my video. My video is not very good on it. I don't really say anything like super interesting, but you know, it's there. I also saw a movie by Brian De Palma called Fury, which I thought was going to be about like psychics and stuff and like the CIA. This movie fucking sucked. This movie was a piece of shit. I saw that with some friends. Very bad. Not a recommendation. I'm probably not going to have like a movie review for a little while. I'm kind of busy watching King of the Hill right now. I'm almost done. You know, probably one more month. And I'll be free of watching all of King of the Hill. I'll have hopefully one decent shitposting video out of it. I think I have enough clips already that I can probably try to Frankenstein together, but it's King of the Hill, but it's American History X. Give it a chance. You know, give it a chance when it comes out. I think I got something there. But that'll probably be in a month for next time on the Trough. Now, one book, which it seems to be like about relationships and kind of that, like kind of modern relationships. I'll dig into that, and then I'm not sure what the other one will be. The other one might be like a fantasy thing. Someone had mentioned that I should like talk about bad books that I don't end up reviewing, just to kind of have them out there. And I that's only happened a few times where I've come across books that I felt I really shouldn't review, either because of quality or other stuff. For one of them that I didn't finish, this is, I don't really have a problem talking about it, but this was Gemini Man by J.D. Cohen. I only got part of the way through the first book before I set it down. There wasn't anything like really egregious and wrong with it. I just really wasn't enjoying it. So it's Gemini Man. I guess, you know, other people might like it. I just didn't really care for it. There wasn't anything like awful, but there wasn't anything like exactly pushing me forward. You know, there wasn't anything I felt was like great, I guess. So I only got like maybe 70 pages or so into that before I stopped. So there's that. The other one, it was sort of a problem where overall the writing was not very good. It was a pretty not great book. But additional problems were, how to say this, we're on YouTube and I don't want to fucking say it. The book was sexually odd. It's hard. I'm not going to describe it any more than that. I'm sorry. But there were some passages and descriptions about this character, and just it was clearly like written in a way where it's like it was 100% like fetishy, and it was just like kind of out there, and I'm like, this is an indie guy, and I don't want to like drag them for that, but I'm not willing to review it or check out anything else they do. It was just like, holy hell, man, holy hell. I guess if you want to message me on Twitter about it, but I'd prefer not to like drag this person. You know what I mean? Where it's like, even though it's just like weird, I don't want to like, just attack them for it. I guess. I don't know. Because they seem to be like an e-Christian or whatever, which is another level to it. Yeah, there you go. That's going to be it from me. I would say check out Cowboy Church. Check out Sacred Times. I think they're both interesting and worth it. Thanks for watching. Dr. Infinity out.
Don't leave me here alone! Not without